feel like it is round number 2 because it's like April weather here. It's like about 75, 80 degrees. Absolutely beautiful weather here at the Speedway, and can't wait to bring you guys all the action today. Of course, the main events later tonight, Kenny, will be on Short Track TV on YouTube, and you're looking forward to that one.
Yeah, Short Track TV, our YouTube channel. 5 o'clock we go live. We're actually live right now, a little surprise test. We've got a lot of new equipment like you do, so we're testing quite a bit of equipment. John Williams on the racetrack right now. This is quite the story. John's actually legally blind. He's always dreamt of going racing, and we had this little Ford Focus out here that was actually a stunt car, smashed and crashed, and John turned it into a race car. Now we've got an idea it might be the replacement of the Toyota sedans long-term with these little Focus cars. So John's out there having a little bit of fun. And fans, if you're listening, we need a nickname for John, right? So what, Jimmy Seals was Luke Warmwater, they called him for a while. He stuck around, right?
I don't know. This is, I got to call him like left rear Louie because he's always got the left rear up off the ground. He said he loves the way that feels, but that doesn't seem that comfortable for me at 19224, 19224.
Well, and John, he always loved dirt track racing, so look at the modifieds now. It's probably that deal. Those modifieds, they jack that left rear up, and they get so severe with it actually causes some carburetor issues. Talking to Bob at Competition Carburetors yesterday. So maybe that's where it comes from. John likes that jacked up left rear.
Well, we go from left rear Louie over to the guy that we call Tommy Reckless on the racetrack, and that's Thomas Magray. And, I say we call him Tommy Reckless, but really that's his nickname. He likes to go by Tommy Reckless, which is such a unique nickname for a Toyota sedan racer. And so, again, if you're tuning into either our YouTube presentation, Short Track TV, or with us here on Facebook, let us know where you're tuning in from, and we'll give you a shout out here live as we're qualifying from Madera Speedway.
Yeah, and finally back racing after a extended off season, I guess we'll call it. But it's so nice to be out here at the Speedway, and like you were talking about earlier, Steven, it's like spring weather out here in California. It's amazing. It's blazing hot on a Wednesday, and then somehow, some way, Mother Nature turns us back to spring on Saturday, so I hope that trend continues.
Yeah, and Tommy Reckless, 18492, 18492.
Now, what was John Williams' speed there?
John's was a bit slower. We'll pull that up in a minute here. It was in the 19.2s. So he's going to have to do a little bit of work to catch up with Tommy Reckless.
Well, here's the fun thing, though. This week, as we're transitioning forward in California, moved to Stage 3 that opened a lot more up for racetracks, we had only planned on operating with 2 divisions tonight. So what we did was actually invited Tommy Reckless out, and then we talked John into a little challenge. So it's just an extra fun deal for them. Same thing with a few hobbies that are on the schedule. But what we're going to do tonight, Stephen, is Tommy Reckless will start on the back straightaway. John Williams will start on the front straightaway, half lap ahead. It's a 15-lap challenge to see if Thomas can catch John.
What's crazy about the two of them is they are so out of control that I would wonder if they'll both complete the lap by themselves. As Thomas Reckless is what I'm going to call him, Thomas Reckless at 18.434 and Johnny Williams at 19.224.
So in 15 laps, he should certainly pass him, calculating on that math. Now, MST's on the track right now. They put on a pretty nice race, the opener last Saturday night. A little bit of action, a little bit more Saturday afternoon. We actually had one of the Reynolds boys up in the air and got a pretty exciting picture and a little video out of that.
Yeah, this was the one that was up in the air. The number 10, our runner-up from last year, Sean Reynolds, and persevered from that to finish in the 3rd spot. And I think he wants to keep all the wheels on the ground today. So we'll keep an eye on that for the number 10 ride of Sean Reynolds. And Sean Reynolds, 16.789, 16789.
Looks nice and smooth out there. Doesn't look too slippery off turn 4. Laying some rubber down right across that speed zorb.
And his second go around is a 16.729. Better on the second go for Sean Reynolds. And like we said, Sean Reynolds second in the points last year. And his brother Ryan has been kind of the class of the field for 2 consecutive years and opened up the season with a win last week.
Yeah, those boys coming from go-karts, they're really, really good race car drivers. Instantly, they bought those cars. I believe it was Daryl Herzog they bought the cars from. Very competitive. Really fast race cars, and I think you've got a brand new driver on the track right now, Stephen.
We do.
First laps last night.
we do have a brand new driver on the racetrack, and this young lady, like many of our drivers here in Madera, started on the back straightaway at Good Times Quarter Midget Club, and they were going to go junior late model racing a few years ago. Couldn't quite make that happen. That's a tough series to build a car, the finances, all the things that go into it. So instead, they've landed in the modified Super Toyotas, a perfect place to start your career, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute, for the number 2 of Haley Bug. And, you know, sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug. So I hope that Haley Bug is the windshield today. And as I say that, she gets sideways in turn 4. Is that not the announcer's curse? And a little bit of inexperience on her part. She probably could have turned that car around. And, like, Outback Andy gets really excited when they do that because he's Australian. So to him, that looks right. As they would normally go the wrong way. Get yourself a big head of steam, but instead, this second lap for car number 2 is going to be a little bit of a letdown for her, unfortunately.
Now, the good thing is she's not bashful about getting right out there on the edge. She was that way last night, and I'll tell you what, if you've ever seen, being a race car driver, the anticipation of your first race probably lasts for a year. She had a grin ear to ear last night when she was out of that race car.
Well, and another female driver that I can recall that had a tumultuous debut was Sarah Fisher when she jumped into a West Series car for Bill McAnally at Phoenix and stuck it in the fence on the first lap, first corner, and said, well, I found the edge. And so Haley Bug, her quick time will be a 21.680. But remember, we were trying to emphasize this is a great entry-level class. Remember, this is the class where Tyler Herzog started, and now you see Tyler Herzog, our Madera late model champion. Mm-hmm. And now we bring on the driver who was kind of the he was the bug for the windshield for the 10 of Ryan Reynolds when he went up over the top, or when he had Ryan Reynolds going up over the top of him, the number 40 car of Dirt Bert Stevens. And Dirt Bert will make it around 4 the first go around at 16.756, 16756. So Dirt Bert, your 2017 champion, and he's probably got a bit of a chip on his shoulder right now that he would like to get back to the top of the mountain in this series. Second lap is slower at 16.876.
And for those of you joining us on Short Track TV, this is a test signal, so we will sign off after qualifying. We're just testing all of our gear, a lot of new equipment. And we'll come back on live at 5 o'clock on the advertised link on Short Track TV for everyone to watch. Check out our Facebook page also. There's a direct link right there, and we will stay from 5 through about 7 o'clock for the end of our main events, and then we'll come back on about 9:15 with another feed for our fireworks show.
And if you're tuning in, later on in our time trials will be our Madera late models, and we do have 12 of them today, so a pretty solid field. And we're probably going to get a first-time winner today, more than likely, in that Madera late model competition.
Yeah, I would think so. And what we did today, actually even last week, we wanted to start really, really small. So we're trying to walk before we run because of the reopening of the racetracks. So we intentionally, as much as we possibly could, we wanted the smallest population in the pits for today. That will begin to change next week. We'll grow a little bit more, and then as we move forward, it'll get bigger and bigger from this point. So fans watching, they will see it's a much smaller show. But again, we've got to start really small to do this right.
So Tim Kammerer on the racetrack, and speaking of small, these diminutive modified Super Toyotas, 18.010, and the second lap's going to be all show no go, and the second lap a 19.489, and what happened there?
Yeah, it's still running. I thought maybe it broke coming off the corner, but he got, it sounds like it's running real good right there. Maybe he just didn't like the lap and gave in on it, but he's driving his way clear into the pit area. We can see from the tower here, so it looks like it's still running.
That was quite unusual. And our safety crew is going out there to investigate in the school bus, as I like to call it, as we got them all stacked in there on the short bus underneath the 5150 sign in turn 4. And hopefully there isn't anything on the track, anything on the surface. Now, they are walking on that dry sweep that was put down by one of our super stock drivers, or excuse me, not super stocks, Madera hobby stock drivers earlier today.
Yeah, the drivers must have given them a little bit of feedback. Matt, our cameraman's got a shot of it for us right now. You can see the guys walking along there. School bus, huh?
Something about it, the yellow and...
Yeah, the school bus suits, huh?
Yeah, and they're all stacked in there.
Yep, looked like Marty. He took a step off. Those rumble strips are a little bigger than they look, evidently, down there. Marty just about jumped on the ground.
Going to have to start getting these guys some golf spikes so they can handle all that stuff down there. We've seen a couple of our late models and junior late models hit those rumble strips over the years and tear up the cars pretty good.
Yep.
Saw that last year in turn 3 at one of our MAV TV shows in an incident that involved drivers such as Eric Holmes and Austin Herzog. Some of the big dogs found that to be pretty treacherous. As we bring on the veteran driver, car number 11, Dennis Brannon. You know, Dennis Brannon, he was 6th in the points back-to-back seasons. So one spot out of probably getting a trophy at our very spectacular banquet. So he'd probably like to put on the monkey suit and be at the banquet this year and be a little higher in the points.
Looks pretty good right there. He's running a bit of a high line, a little bit higher than a couple of the other guys were. So let's see how that turns out. But car looks like it's rotating really good through the middle of the corner.
And like we mentioned last week, is not only is the weather different, the time is different. Now, of course, tonight not quite as early as last week when the late models went green at 4:45, but still 17.481 for Dennis Brannon. So track conditions are a whole unknown. The surface is a bit different this year. Maybe you can touch on that, Kenny. And, of course, the times are different. We took 8 months off of racing, if you can believe that. The second time, 17.400 is the quicker of the two for Dennis Brannon.
Yeah, and what we did in the off season, as soon as the season was finished in November, we ground the track, did a little bit of repaving work, and then completely resealed it with a very aggressive seal coat, anticipating that it would pick some speed up, and that certainly did with late models. We've seen some really fast times, and I don't think we've seen anything yet. Once we get to the evening races, which next Saturday night will be the first race we see the late models under the lights, I think that's where we'll produce some pretty serious speed.
Well, on the big aspect last week, maybe you can touch on as well, is the outside line didn't quite come in as we expected and as we normally get here at this Tri-Bank racetrack. You know, a lot of people know about Irwindale and Homestead, but this was kind of the original Tri-Bank track, and the outside was treacherous last week, but that will widen out as the summer goes on.
Yeah, it does. And what also happens here in Madera, I remember this way back. I mean, dinosaur days when I raced in the early 90s here in late models. The high side's always been good when the sun goes down. For whatever reason, I guess just shortest way around the track when it's a little bit slipperier is the bottom. So when the sun's out the bottom, it's a bottom side racetrack. When the sun goes down, you see the cars go up the hill. And I'd like to see it get back to what we had back in the old days, my old days. We just about knocked the right front off in the wall every time we were so high. Clear up against the wall at a point, and then you come charging down the hill. So we're going to work real hard to try and get that third groove activated this year.
So Patrick Geiger, who leapfrogged past everybody in that leap car to a second-place finish last week when there was that skirmish in front of him, he will time in third on the board at 16.839. As we bring out the other half of the Leap gang, and we'll see if he can kind of stick it to his teammate Patrick Geiger, and that's going to be the 21 with the K on it, although it looks a little bit more like an X from here, Jason Kearns. So Kearns getting some heat in those tires, and we'll get that bright green car out of the way and get him back going. I can recall a couple years ago when our Toyota sedans had a pretty tough start to the year a few years ago. And Tim Curtis came back to competition with his sedan painted up safety yellow. And he said, I don't want them to have any doubt that they can see me on the track because I've been run into a few times. And there's no way you're going to miss this car tonight, Kenny.
Yeah, Patrick Geiger, he's quite the painter, in the business he has. So his stuff is immaculate, clean. It's hot rod clean, show car clean. And he really likes that color of green.
Fifth quick for Kearns at 17.478.
I really expect Kearns to be extremely competitive, competitive to win. He's a great race car driver. Patrick's equipment is really good, so I think once they get dialed in a little bit, he will be up there knocking on the door with those Reynolds boys.
Yeah, they got some work to do. The second lap was slower at 17.556, so they're giving up kind of a remarkable 3/4 of a second on the top two.
Yep.
So right now, Sean Reynolds the quickest. If you're just tuning in either on Madera Speedway or on the Stephen Blakesley Facebook, either way, Sean Reynolds 16.729 to Bert Stevens 16.756. That's 27 1/1000ths. And we still have the real heavy hitter of the group to qualify, the 33 of Ryan Reynolds, our two-time champion. By the way, if you're just tuning in to our time trials, we'll be live on Short Track TV, all one word, on YouTube, 5 p.m. That stream is up now as a reminder. So you can click the bell on there. It says set reminder, and it'll give you a little notification on your cellular device, and you won't miss it. 5 o'clock main events tonight. We're going to be qualifying our late models in a minute here, and we have 12 of them. We have 9 of the MSTs today, so kind of a co-headlining program, if you will. It should be fun to see. So stick around for the rest of the time trials, but again, come back and see us at 5 for heat races and main events. As the 33 of Ryan Reynolds trying to take down his brother Sean. Right now, the time to beat 16.729.
And what's interesting is how the two brothers are probably the most serious competition. It's amazing how hard they race each other. Last week was really fun as the 10 car caught the 33 in traffic, started running down, and loose there. What do we got, Steven?
Well, he's number one by a handful, 16.549 by over a tenth and a half on Sean Reynolds. So you would think these are very identically prepared cars, like I said, the former Herzog cars, and something Ryan has just found something. We see that in our Pro Late models. They all run those identical 602 crate motors, and still some guys just find something extra. The second lap would have been strong enough for quick time as well at 16.672. But how about it, Ryan Reynolds, race fans, 16.549 on Sean Reynolds, Dirt Burt Stevens. We're leaping with Patrick Geiger in fourth, Dennis Brandon, your top 5, then Kearns Kammerer. And then we get to our sedans of Magray and Johnny Williams, and Haley Bugg in her debut, rounding out the group. We might have had a car that didn't qualify. I'll confirm that here in a moment. I thought we had 9 and 2, but we have 10 on our scoreboard. And we go from the little itty-bitty quiet MSTs with their Celica engines all the way up to the big V8 rumbling horsepower of the hobby stocks, Kenny.
This is a very colorful car, the Gonzalez car. Looking at this car up close, they really did a lot of work in the offseason. Good-looking ride right now.
Yeah, so Manny Gonzalez Jr. on the racetrack. And that is a beautifully prepared Camaro.
And I would say that 42 evolved probably from Chuck Aguirre. The family's really close, and the icon Chuck Aguirre is. One more lap around, not a bad-looking lap.
17.153, and we know when some of the heavy hitters are there that wouldn't quite do it, but it's smooth and consistent. If you can run the lap consistently, that's half the battle. And that was, again, very smooth, very tidy. I think he's just trying not to overdrive the car, as he actually gave up a little bit, about a quarter-second difference, 17.455 to a 17.153 for Manny Gonzalez Jr.
And we'll notice this evening we're missing our champion, Steve Schimmerhorn, due to a broken foot that's healing right now. So Steve's probably going to watch us on the live feed tonight, but we certainly miss his enthusiasm and his little pal, his best crew member, is a little dog. Hangs out with him. He's a cool little guy.
Well, that's kind of an epidemic around Madera Speedway. Jaden Walbridge in our junior late models, who's arguably one of the top 2 or 3 contenders for the title this year. Mm-hmm. He broke his foot screwing around with some friends and still did practice, still ran a race at Vegas, I believe. And these kids have a lot of tenacity. We bring on, this is a unique looking car, and just a whole lot of fun to have a Monte Carlo out here with a 73 of Tyler Rogers.
I love the look of this car. It reminds me of the old Grand National cars. I would like to see 20 cars on the track that look just like that.
Yeah, this is a cool one, and it's also a fast one.
Loose.
Quick time for Tyler Rogers, and really that's a one and done because he's the last car to qualify into the 16s at 16.994.
Yep, same thing like we were saying earlier. Nice small event tonight. We want to keep it as tidy as can be. That's why... Well, last week, for example, we had 16 late models, and we could have had up to 41. You'll see things grow quite a bit next week in comparison to tonight, and then as we move forward, the shows will get bigger and bigger with more cars.
So this live stream right now, at least for if you're looking at it on Facebook, this is just an itty-bitty preview. We have full-blown camera production, Matt's on the cameras. If you're on our YouTube, you can preview that right now. We have some folks tuned in on Facebook from Mississippi. We got a big hello from Doug Torres, who helps us with the camera work a bit. A lot of times we have him up on the boom in turn 1, so good to see Doug here. It's a bit breezy today. You'd be getting blown around depending on where we put you.
Yeah, Doug came down. Actually, what we should do next week, Doug is becoming very good with flying the drones. Does a lot of production work with the drones. So it might be fun to put a drone up in the air and get a little live footage from that next week. We've got one of our drone rigs is actually set up for live. It'll feed back into one of our repeaters, and we can put that signal out, so that would be fun.
So we're going from hobby stocks and MSTs into our Madera late models, 12 cars here today. And, there's a lot of drivers here that have longer histories than even I'm aware of. Probably the one that stands out is, I got to think Trevor Schlent's got a couple of club wins here over the years. Outside of that, there aren't a whole lot of Madera late model victories in this group. So it'll be fun to see if we can get a first-time winner. Practice times indicated that may be the case. As we're on our first qualifier, a driver who he's risen the ladder just the way you would plan it, going up from our MSTs, right? John McCollum in car number 40.
Yep, the McCollum family, very, very nice folks, hardworking people. And like you say, to come up through the ropes, you transition up. Now he's in a late model. One thing fun to touch on what you said, a new winner. It will be a lot of fun. I like seeing new winners. The club races, we operate them. They're typically we'll have 17, 18, 19 cars, and we'll get back to that very quickly. But one of the fun things, we operate them very clean, almost SCCA style. We hope they don't touch anything more than donuts too much.
Yep, so McCollum getting ready to see the white flag this time by at a 16.048. He wants to see a 15.
That car's very tight too, Steven. I mean, real tight. This one's going to be a much slower lap. That thing is... when those front tires are turned to the left and it's still going to the right, very, very tight.
Well, he was pretty decent in practice. This is a bit of a fall off. That second lap, he'll be kicking himself at a 16.562. And like we said, that's a bit of a fall off from practice. But, that's one of the things when you're new to late models is just figuring out, what do I do on adjustments? And they probably went a little too far. He was a 15.794 in practice. So he's got the pace to have a pretty good run tonight.
Like you said, probably just an adjustment. They went the wrong way or went a little bit too far. Maybe it was a little bit loose in practice. They tried to tighten it up a little bit and just went too far. But even with the sun out, I think, if our hitters were here, a Buddy Shepard, they're still going to put that car in the 1490s on a day like today. Matt Erickson's here. He's going to put that car in the 1490s.
Well, we saw that last week with Buddy Shepard into the 14.9s, and now we want to emphasize that we are practicing distancing to an extreme degree. It is very odd for me to not get into the pits and not talk to some people. This is a driver I would have liked to talk to. Hans Bieler is what we have on our list. And I believe he ran this car at Stockton a couple weeks ago, and he has very little racing experience except for his dad, of course, being the PCS champion, Mike Bieler. And Hans Bieler crosses the timing lights at a 15.738 with the, gotta love the stang on the front. Hey, that second lap, Dad is going to be proud, 15.588. And hey, he's a chip off the old block so far.
He looks really smooth. And, sometimes when you see this, I'm probably Chase Elliott. How much did he watch his dad? So when you finally get in a car, you feel like you're supposed to be there. So I'm sure being a Bieler and with a dad that's been as successful as his father is, he's watched it since he was a little guy, so it just feels natural. Now, Lily Mead coming out on the track, I'll tell you what, last night, Stephen, she looked good. And this car is getting faster and faster. Last week, she was pretty fast through the middle of the corner.
Well, I got a great story from her brother from the way practice went. They came in from practice, and they had Dad working on his car and Alex working on Jay Juleson's car. And Lily comes in and goes, "What did I run?" They go, "Well, you're running 7s. Well, what did Jay Juleson run?" He ran a few 2s. And she kind of jumped right back in the car, no adjustments, ran off a 2. So they lit the fire underneath her a little bit there, and maybe that fire will continue today. And just kind of interesting, a little rivalry there. Dad's working on her car, and brother's working on Juleson's car, and a 15.660 for the Meade Performance gang.
And I'll tell you something about Lily. She may be in the championship hunt by the time this year's over with the Madera late models. So you're going to have probably Trevor Schlent, Lily Meade. There'll be a handful of them that I'll bet she's in the mix. She looked really good racing. She's gained a lot. And, again, like I said last night, I came out and watched her towards the end of the night, and that car was rolling. She was up on the wheel.
15.674, a little slower on the second go for Lily Meade. And, what's cool is when you say that Lily Meade and Trevor Schlent are arguably the two contenders, those are prehistoric cars by race car standards. That car was built in the late 90s in Las Vegas, I understand, and kind of sat in mothballs, was built by Dana Stahl. The 28 Trevor Schlent, he was running that car back at Altamont way back in 06. But this is not a prehistoric car. This is a pretty strong car right here for the 89 crew.
Well, and I think that's the magic to this series where you activate, with this whole late model scene that we have that's emerged and grown all over the western United States now. we were kind of the nucleus or the catalyst of it, and it's taking those old tour-type cars, old late models, tire-engine combination, allowing talent to shine. And I think, a very successful formula. Old cars running good with new cars.
Well, Sheldon Cooper is number 1 on the board in the BC's Pizza car, 15.484, and I saw he had a salad at BC's Pizza. So he got his vegetables and got himself to the top of the board. And the second lap was pretty smooth, 15.531. And that car, a car that used to be campaigned by Randy Hedrick and John Moore and the Sierra Speed team. So they got a lot of know-how. I guess those guys, when he picked up the car, threw all kinds of parts in the trailer, all kinds of know-how. He's been calling them for advice, and it has really worked out well for him. Got that B-main win at the end of last year at the short track shootout, and currently number 1 here in round number 2 of 2020.
One thing I can tell you to touch on is we've made some, in the off-season, we make very few rules changes ever, and we took a lot of parts and pieces away from the rear suspension, lift bars, bird cages, torque arms, all types of things. So a trend I've seen, I saw it on Sheldon's car, looked much like Buddy Shepard last week. They're using geometry in the rear end. You'll see the rear of the car actually lift and put forward bite into the car, kind of like some of the dirt car setups. And I just saw Sheldon's car doing that as well.
Well, and Shepard had enough travel in the rear that by the end of the main event, the bodywork was hanging on the tire into the corner. As they bring on the 75 of Matt Coots. And if you're watching on Race Monitor, it came across as Lauren Coots, but this is not the Papa. This is Matt Coots. And that's a good lap time for him at a 15.545 for Matt Coots. Now, there's a possibility that Lauren is in that car, so we'll confirm that. 15.474. Again, we're practicing extreme distancing. I haven't been down in the pits at all, which is so weird for me. I literally drove through them, drove to the booth, and sat my butt up here in the tower. So that might be the Papa driving that car.
I believe it is. They had both cars out last night. We actually had about 4 cars last night that tested that chose not to race today. We kind of encouraged some of it. They'll be back next week, the week before the TV show, but I believe that is Papa Coots.
So Lauren Papa Coots will be in the 75 at a 15.474. He'll be the quickest qualifier so far. As we bring on car number 44, a Mike Shapiro. That's
got Ray Miller on the wrenches on that car, and Ray Miller is one of the more winning crew chiefs in the western United States. So Mike's car's got a lot of speed. It's just making sure he's as smooth as he can, and probably listening to Ray. And that car's got winning speed in it.
Well, we can go back to when you first got your hands on this track with Short Track Management as Mike Shapiro, 15.475 by only 1/1000th. He misses out on quick time, but remember, who was the big dominant car when you first took over here at Madera was Mark Holman, and that was a Ray Miller car, so they know their way around this track. And how about P1 to the top, as the NHRA would say? Mike Shapiro, 15.450.
He rolled the corner really nice in 3 and 4. As you were chatting, I was watching the monitor, and that car was down in the racetrack. It looked really good. For Ray Miller, just prior to Holman, was Dave Bird. In my first actually promoting days up at Altamont that first year, it was Ray Miller and Dave Bird were together up there.
And they won the championship that year, 2006. Yep.
Tough competitors. So, again, the right wrenches are on that 44 car.
So we had a few questions and comments online, some people tuning in from all over the country. We have some folks tuning in from Mississippi, and then we have folks from right here in Fresno. If you've never been to Madera Speedway, we're just north of Fresno, right outside of the Yosemite National Park. Want to say hello to Brian Smith, Joshua Rodriguez, Ed Coffey, Brody Reedman, who runs Junior Late Models, Trisha East, that's the mother of the beast. I wonder what she thinks of that nickname. Garland Tyler, the new father, Roy Robinette, Paul, who owns the number 3 Superstock at Roseville, Billy Cephas, Josh Cross, who won the Central Valley Mini Stock race here last year, and Manny Gonzalez tuning in from the pits. As on the racetrack right now is the number 23 of Joey Brazil, 15.834.
Little loose off of turn 4 there.
And, well, loose is fast, 15.714.
So from Mississippi to the Madera pits.
Yeah.
Following you there, huh?
Yep. Yeah, speaking of Josh Cross from Manteca, who has tuned in, he'll be here for the for Olga's California Dream 100 in August, on August the 24th or 31st, I believe.
31st.
31st. And he has taken one of his B4, F4 cars to a whole different level. He's got a late model Camaro nose on it, and you got to think he'll be one of the favorites in that. You might have 54-cylinder cars here.
I think we will, and then we have the Central Valley mini stocks with Dan Myrick and his group. So you're going to have another probably 30 in that class. So we could have 80 mini stocks, and the entire event will be filmed from AvTV. So it's really something cool for the mini stocks. And I saw some of the mini stocks running back in Bristol, so it's kind of fun to do our version of that. That looked pretty good.
Yeah, I did. Mike Beeler, who is very good here at Madera, a 15.378 to the top. Now, all of his real strong runs here at Madera came in the PCS on those big 10-inch slick tires. So it's a little different to make these 970s hook up. The second lap was good as well at 15.510. And, I asked Beeler a little bit about what he thought of transitioning from the super lates to the pro lates. You are going a little bit slower, but you're way up on the steering wheel. It's a whole different style of driving. He said that he enjoys it, loves trying to find speed out of these tires, and I think it renewed his enthusiasm for racing because the competition level is just a lot tighter in these cars than it was in the PCS because you had the haves and the have-nots. This brings them all together, and this is a perfect example of that. If you're just tuning into our live stream, we were talking, this car is probably about 15 years old, and this could be one of our favorites to win tonight's main event, the 28 of Trevor Schlunt. Remember, who did Trevor Schlunt beat last week? How about Austin Herzog, our defending track champion? So this car was fast.
Yeah, and it has been fast. They've had some issues off and on with the car. I think it sounded like they're getting a lot of the bugs worked out of it, and they're pretty happy with the car right now. So you were talking about a potential new winner. Trevor has won main events here before. It's been a while ago, but he is a potential winner tonight. Looked pretty good right there. Let's see what he came up with.
Well, how about a 15.361 to the top for Trevor Schlunt, and that Dennis Auto Repair team is going to be pretty happy, and there's still two extremely fast hot rods left to go here in qualifying, so we'll see how those two cars roll. The first of them coming out right now is the Zone Up Toyota, driving for Meade Performance this year, Jay Juleson in car number 12, and I think he's going to be a contender in our Nut Up Pro Late models and our Madera Late models this year. So Jay Juleson trying to zone up the competition. The time to beat is a 15.361, and if yesterday is any indication, they can go quicker than that.
He's been real happy with that race car, too. He did some testing before we were shut down from the COVID-19 situation. Looked
number
really good.
one,
Looked
number
good.
one, 15.258. And, for Alex Meade and Meade Performance and that whole family, this is a big project for them because they want this to go really, really well because they would like to do a whole lot more of this, helping drivers move up the ranks. So Juleson is the perfect driver for them, local to their area. The second lap was pretty good as well at 15.420.
That car's cutting really well. I think the Meads have come up with something. It looks like, again, earlier in the season in March, they came out and did some testing. They were out for a private test. The car looked really good. Juleson was really happy with the car. But here's another fast, young driver. So we'll see if this final driver can knock his way or knock Juleson off and take over the top spot here.
Yeah, drivers started outside pole last week and got freight train back to 6th and then had an off-road excursion in turn 1 that ended his night. The 51S, a relatively inexperienced driver. His father, Dan, one of the chief investors in getting Kern County Raceway opened up. This is Jacob Smith, and we had a few questions online. This is just a preview. If you're on the Facebook, you'll want to go to Short Track TV, all one word, on YouTube, 5 p.m. for a multicam shoot. That's 5 p.m. Short Track TV on YouTube, multicam shoot of all the heat races, all the main events, and the 51S on the clock right now is the quickest car. How about this? A 15.092. And he is proving to be a bit of a natural. And for 2 consecutive weeks, a Bakersfield driver, the 09ers will reign supreme. Jacob Smith, 15.092, is going to lead our Madera late model qualifying. That was a humdinger of a lap.
Yeah, and he's got Racing Vernon in that group down there wrenching on that car too, team car to them. So that's a lot of speed. They've, of course, Racing Vernon's won races on the TV show against some of the toughest drivers around. So I think that's going to produce some pretty big speed and probably some pretty strong results all the way into even the TV show.
So let's take a moment here to run down our order before we sign off for now. Jacob Smith, Jay Julson, Trevor Schlumpf, Mike Beeler, Mike Shapiro, your top 5. Then the Papa, Lauren Coots, the Papa, Lauren Coots, then Sheldon Cooper, then Lily Mead, Hans Beeler, and Joey Brazil, the top 10. John McCollum Jr. and Nathan Casillas rounding out the order. I don't think Casillas ran a time, so hopefully we'll get his car out there. And again, thank you to everyone that's tuned into our preview. Remember, in just about 10 or 15 minutes, we'll be live, Short Track TV, all one word on YouTube. Go there now, click the bell that says set reminder, and you'll never miss it. There is a live chat there, so if you don't have a YouTube account, make one so you can comment. We'll read those throughout the night. Again, YouTube, Short Track TV, all one word. Kenny, looking forward to that here in about 15 minutes.
Yep, should be just shortly. And if you do have any trouble finding that link, you can go to the Madera Speedway Facebook page, Madera Speedway, and there's actually a couple of links there that'll plug you right in. Actually, if you look for the one with the grandstands full, we chose a picture full, I guess, because we miss our fans so much, and this live feed is about providing this for our fans. So find that picture on our Facebook page, click it. If you're at home, kick back, enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you here in about 10 minutes. Hopefully you've got it on your Roku or the smart TV, and getting ready to give you a really nice feed here and do what we can tonight.
So if you're tuned in on my Facebook here on Stephen Blakesley and on Short Track Live, we're going to play a quick advertisement for you that shows kind of what we're all about, and I hope to see you guys back at 5 o'clock, Short Track TV on YouTube.